Hey everyone, and welcome to the Explainer. Today we are deconstructing exactly how our primitive physical postures shape our mental states and, ultimately, our social interactions.
So let's just jump right in with a pretty critical question. Are you secretly self-sabotaging your connections by subconsciously building invisible biological barriers? It's a fascinating thing to think about, and the science behind it is honestly incredible. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the invisible social barriers, move into our primitive limbic legacy, explore the biology of power, learn some pro-social body language, and finally wrap up with hacking your true presence.
Part 1. The invisible social barriers. Let's look at how our bodies actually betray us in social settings. You see, we often feel powerless or anxious in modern situations, and that accidentally triggers our body's ancient protective responses. This accidentally triggered panic brilliantly illustrates proxemics, which is basically each person's biological and cultural requirement for personal space. Think about it. When your space is violated, like, say, someone standing just a little too close to you at the ATM, your pulse literally starts racing, right? We experience this powerful limbic stress response that makes us hypervigilant and entirely shuts down our ability to connect. That brings us perfectly to Part 2, our primitive limbic legacy, or evolution in the boardroom. To really understand why we cross our arms or shrink away when we feel awkward, we have to look at this primitive limbic legacy, which frankly sometimes still thinks we're out in the wild hiding from predators.
This primitive survival biology is deeply ingrained. In fact, former FBI agent Joe Navarro once caught a killer simply by observing a subconscious limbic freeze. Navarro was reading a list of potential murder weapons to a suspect, and the moment he mentioned an ice pick, which was the unpublicized weapon used in the crime, the suspect's eyelids came down hard and just stayed down. A completely involuntary freeze response literally revealed his guilt.
Now, we might not be dodging FBI interrogations every day, but we do miniature versions of this freeze and protect response all the time. Look at the guy on the left here. His knee is acting as a defensive physical barrier between himself and the woman. But on the right, just by uncrossing and shifting that leg, the barrier entirely vanishes. It's such a tiny movement, but it transforms a protective shield into an open bridge for communication. This ties right into what's called ventral denial. That's when we shift the vulnerable front of our body, like our eyes, chest, and torso, away from perceived threats. When we're uncomfortable, our limbic brain forces us to turn away to protect our vital organs. But author Mark Manson notes a really fascinating philosophical flip side here. Physical vulnerability is actually a powerful tool for connection. By consciously avoiding ventral denial and fronting our vulnerable torso towards someone, we communicate ultimate trust.
And we can actually compound that feeling of intimacy through something called isopraxism. It's a primitive form of mirroring. When we subtly mirror someone's posture or the way they lean, it instantly signals safety and mutual respect to the other person's brain. It demonstrates social harmony and rewards intimacy. And the best part? You don't even have to say a single word.
Okay, moving on to Part 3, the biology of power. Let's see how all this builds into the fascinating world of the endocrine system and how we can actively hack these hormonal responses.
The crucial difference here is grounded in researcher Amy Cuddy's work. High-power poses are expansive. They involve widespread limbs and erect posture, and they actively lower our stress. On the flip side, low-power poses are constricted and hunched. These postures not only spike stress, but they increase what psychologists call learned helplessness. Expanding your body actually overrides that primitive instinct to flee.
The physiological effects of this are absolutely stunning. In laboratory tests, expanding your body literally toughens you to physical pain. When researchers tested people's pain thresholds using a tourniquet, the ones holding expansive postures handled the pain significantly better. In another test, subjects who held an expansive pose perceived the physical weight of boxes to be significantly lighter than those who held constricted poses. Expanding your posture quite literally changes your physical reality. How wild is that?
Now, since we can't exactly strike a dramatic Wonder Woman pose in the middle of a board meeting or a first date, we need subtle, pro-social body language techniques. That is what Part 4 is all about.
Notice how simply spreading an arm over an adjacent chair immediately communicates high confidence and comfort. This brilliantly illustrates effective space management, which is often called the hooding effect. By gently claiming territory, you're telling your own brain, and everyone else in the room for that matter, that you are grounded and totally in control.
So here are 3 actionable steps you can literally start using today. 1. Sit up straight. 2. Adopt open palm gestures. Palms up are super welcoming and signal deep trust. And 3. Avoid anxious penguin arms. That is when you pin your upper arms tightly to your sides and only gesture with your forearms, making you look, well, exactly like an anxious penguin. Consciously unpin those arms to instantly break down social barriers in real time.
Which brings us to our final section, Part 5, Hacking Your True Presence. Because these aren't just fun laboratory theories. These body-mind nudges have profound impacts on people facing extreme psychological barriers in the real world.
Just listen to the experience of Roberto, a combat veteran dealing with PTSD. He said, "I recognize when I am subconsciously isolating." For someone dealing with severe hypervigilance, consciously uncrossing his arms and taking up space unlocked a previously closed-off existence. It actively helped him overcome the uneasiness that was holding him back.
Similarly, Mac, a homeless man in California, realized his hunched posture was projecting his marginalization out to the world. He decided, I consciously adopted power posing and maximizing my space. Think about that. Even in the face of intense marginalization, expanding one's posture can powerfully restore humanity, dignity, and social connection.
What Roberto and Mac experienced is what we call the cascade effect. By using your body as a remote control, you create a cascading effect that entirely bypasses verbal self-doubt. You don't have to convince yourself with words. Instead, just by changing your posture, you override those fight or flight instincts, anchor yourself in the present moment, and literally force your brain into a state of present confidence.
So, to wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final thought. Check your own posture right now. Are you expanding to connect with the world around you, or are you letting your limbic system hold you hostage behind invisible walls? The choice is entirely up to you. Thanks so much for joining me today, and keep expanding.